He was a typical technocrat. He excelled in all the different disciplines or organizations he found himself. He was people's person. But the people of Borno State loved him, and we still love him dearly, because he had, during his tenure as Chief of Staff, helped Borno State, he helped Nigeria, and also, I would say, other countries as well. So we really missed him. Abba Kyari, some people say, was a controversial person. He wasn't. He was just doing his job. And as a chief of staff of a governor in my state, I know what it takes to be a chief of staff. And can you imagine multiplying that by 1,000 times to be a chief of staff of Mr. President? And there are certain qualities that one must have to really be an excellent chief of staff. And Abba Kyari had all of those. One important quality is dedication to his job. He had that. But the most important one is loyalty to your boss. And that loyalty, it must be total, not 95%, not 80%, total 100 and above. And he had that, and he served Mr. President perfectly, and people who tried to really get to Mr. President, or they had their own agenda, they found that Abba Kyari was there. They could not ban him. That's why, people said, oh, he was controversial. He was just doing his job. And that's exactly what I'm doing too. I learned a lot from him, because I am committed to my boss. I am loyal to my boss. There is no way who will come through me to my boss. It will not happen. And that's exactly what Abba Kyari did to Mr. President. And he served Mr. President very well. Believe me, before Abba Kyari, if you asked me to name the former chief of staff, I couldn't name anyone, because I spent most of my time in the US before coming here. But after Abba Kyari, now I'm paying attention to chief of staff. And I know Professor Gambari now. So from there, at least now he has set a certain standard that chief of staffs must follow: total loyalty and commitment to the office of chief of staff.
Behind God sits on the throne. In front is the gateway, the portal to heaven. That sits the chief of staff. Because the president is almost the God we find on earth. In mortality, not in divinity. So whoever has said Abba Kyari for being a powerful gatekeeper did not understand the function and position of the chief of staff. Whoever criticized him for protecting the integrity of his president. Because look at the new chief of staff, what did he say when he took office? And he was asked, how prominent will you be? How will you represent yourself to Nigeria? He said, that's not my business. I'm not here to represent myself to the Nigerian people. I'm here to represent myself to the president, who then represent himself to the Nigerian people. So it is that particular relationship, the dynamics of power in the villa, centralized around the image and personality of the chief of staff. And in the case of Abba, he delivered that particular job with aplomb. I'm not here to question or to pierce into the vagaries of those decisions, the import of them, or the morality even of them. I'm here to talk about the competence and efficiency in execution of the role of a gatekeeper at the doorway of heaven's gate. One is tempted to go on and on, but I know the time is short, mostly for some of the distinguished guests here who had some other appointments. So for my role as the chairman, I can say I speak about the context of the man, the context of a life in transition, and the context of a controversial era in Nigerian history. friends and foes have been engaging one another in dialogic upon dialogic over the past months about his legacy in the making. But as I said, anybody who has poured out his or her heart in support, in defense, in opposition to Abba Kyari, may wait tarry for a while. The season is not yet unfolded. The future becomes when the fullness of his life and the fullness of his entity as a gatekeeper at heaven's gate will be revealed. One thing that is actually lacking in the life we have in Nigeria today is the issue of mentors and mentees. How do we mentor people? And how do mentees react to mentors and look up to them for guidance?
I'm going to deliver a vote of thanks. This particular segment is important to me personally and to this event. I want to thank every one of you who took out time from your busy schedule to come here and support this project. By the late Chief of Staff as a patriot and an extraordinary Nigerian who I was opportune to meet sometime last year in London. Where I spoke with him, I said, I'm surprised the perception I had, or the perception that has been going around the country about you, seemed not to be true. I could see his resolve, I could see his interest in Nigeria, I could see his passion in nation building. And I said to him, sir, I would like to tell your story, the Nigerian way. I would like to tell your story through our own prism, so that future generations, generation unborn, can pick up your book, in time to come, read about your legacy, what you stand for, the policies you stand for as an individual and for the government that you represent. And so that was what made me involved in the project. It wasn't supposed to be a posthumous book. It was supposed to be a book to celebrate him, but unfortunately he passed during the time I was putting together the book. So I had to add the extra chapters that now talked about his life and times.
My name is Professor Isa Marte Hussaini, Chief of Staff to His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Umara Zulum. I feel really honored and also excited to be here to represent the good people of Borno State, particularly His Excellency, the Executive Governor. We have honored not only our son, but a true Nigerian, someone who really served this country very well. And he was a good model of indigent of Borno State. So I'm really proud to be around.